Hello everyone, welcome to The Green Man, hope you're good and well. So for this Monday's album review, I'm reviewing the latest release from Ingested, Ashes Lie Still, which came out last week on Friday the 4th of November via Metal Blade Records. And the album is 11 tracks and 48 minutes in length. In Ingested, we've got Jason Evans on vocals, Sean Hines on guitar and backing vocals, guitar duties, and on drums we've got Lynn Jeffs. So there are currently 3 band members. I remember listening to Where Only Gods May Tread, I think, in early 2020 or some point. I think it was certainly before the onset of the pandemic, if I remember correctly. And I remember enjoying that album, thinking it was pretty good. I've not been back to it a huge amount, to be honest. So I went into this album with, just give this one a shot. I generally, with this type of album, with this kind of deathcore style of death metal album, I can find myself tiring of the sound quite quickly. I'm one of those people that I like to pick out certain deathcore tracks, but sometimes listening to a whole deathcore album, I can find somewhat challenging front to back. And for me, it's that sort of repetitive chugging sound that's very much a signature of the sound, that unless it's mixed up quite a fair amount with, breaks, maybe a little bit of atmosphere, guitar leads, a little bit more, besides just that kind of flattening sound pretty much every track of the way, I can find it a little bit difficult. Now I do sort of understand the background, so I've read a bit about the background, the run into this album. So for the band themselves, this was a pretty, some tragic circumstances for, I think it was Sean Hines. I read that he actually, this album was driven, by the experience of the loss of his father at the start of the pandemic and not being able to actually say goodbye to his father. So it's really awful circumstances. And he obviously, there's a lot of emotional weight in this. And I think certainly one thing I would definitely say in favour of this album is that you can hear that. I think you can certainly hear that in all the sort of vocal departments of the album. And there's some certain tracks I like on here have certain dynamics in them as well that I enjoy. So going into the songs a bit more for this one, I like the way the opening song, Ashes Lie Still, has the vocals, in sync with the guitar blasts in that track in particular after the initial kind of blast beat parts. Really like that starting song, I think, a lot. Pretty pummeling. In fact, I'd say I really like actually the start and end of the album in particular, like the bookends of this album. Like, I love the opening track. Also love the close and Rebirth, which I thought was a really good way to finish the album. Just loved the sort of hammering style of that final track. Good one to headbang to, and I thought that was a pretty strong closer. Shadow of Time, also quite enjoyed that, with some faster shredding going on between the slower, more stompier riffs. And You'll Never Learn starts off with a really wicked guitar riff, but I felt that the track sort of after that didn't really do enough to keep my attention all the way through as such. Loved From Hollow Words, I think it was. It got a kind of bouncy, thrashy style to that track, which I enjoyed pretty much for that song for the whole way through. I think it was A Sea of Stone with some cool drum fills, lots of tempo shifts. That was another track that I really quite enjoyed significantly. And All I've Lost was pretty good, but this one featured Matt Heafy's some Matt Heafy vocals but they were pretty buried in the mix. I would have liked them to have been a bit more forwards in the mix, to be honest. And because otherwise he kind of I couldn't really hear him all that clearly in this song. And I thought, it sounded like a pretty good song and a good vocal part. So I would have thought, bring that out of the song. So yeah, I've got some. You can probably tell this has been a relatively mixed review so far. I mean, I do think that you can see that it's one of those things where you can see a lot of effort has gone into this, but I just think this style for me isn't one that I am gonna particularly like. And I know I do like certain deathcore approaches and bands. I like Fit for an Autopsy quite a bit, but for me there's just not, there's not enough here that I really want to sort of revisit, and there just wasn't a lot that I could latch onto, to be quite honest. And I like their previous albums, so I will still give this more time. I've given it quite a few listens, and you know, maybe it will grow on me a little bit more in time. But yeah, I thought it, you know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I'm going to give my final score for this Ingested album a 6.5 out of 10, because I'm kind of somewhere between a 6 and a 7 with this. So I'm going to give it a 6.5. And yeah, maybe you'll enjoy the style. For me, it was just, like I say, I felt that whilst there were some, you know, a few tracks which did a few different things, when you listen to the album front to back, just the kind of chug fest, pretty much for most of it I found, and you get some changes and breaks for more stomping riffs and that sort of thing, but I just found it difficult to sort of maneuver my way through this one, look for those details, enjoy certain details from the tracks. I found that overall a little bit difficult with this album. So, but yeah, do let me know how you felt about this one in the comments. You know, you might think this is a great album, and that may just be that I'm struggling with the confines of this particular approach. I think rather than necessarily that it is, you know, this is always subjective. So do let me know in the comments what you thought of this album. If you enjoyed this one, I welcome your views and opinions. How do you think this rates in their discography as well? Because I only really know their previous album, to be fair, as well. So do let me know what you think of this one, guys. Otherwise, from me, till next time, bye for now.